that's why I say, and I really believe this team has a real shot to win a World Series.
Welcome into another edition of On the Record. My name is Jesse Friedman, and today I am joined by the one and only Sam Levitt, who's the pre-post radio host over for the San Diego Padres. And Sam, we have ourselves maybe the most important series that the Diamondbacks have played all year. I imagine this probably is not the most important series that the Padres have played all year, although there's still at least a little bit on the line for them. I guess, first of all, for you, Padres coming off a bit of a tough series in LA. They really had a shot to actually win the NL West, as crazy as that might sound during the last week of the regular season. They weren't quite able to pull that off. How do you think the team just sort of reacted to, still they're making the postseason. They're definitely there, but they're not going to actually finish the job of winning the NL West?
Well, first, Jesse, thank you for having me on. I apologize for being a little bit in transit here. I'm getting ready to leave LA and head back to San Diego to get back on the radio for this series against the Diamondbacks. So I apologize for my not ideal setting here in an apartment building lobby. But about the Padres. Yeah, look, they had a great opportunity in front of them once they won that first game in LA. Now, going and sweeping that series to take control of the NL West was always going to be a very tall order. They did a great job winning on Tuesday night. They had a miraculous ending with the triple play. In my mind, it was always going to be a really, really tough and probably unlikely scenario that you were going to go there, sweep them, and then find a way to win this division, right? And look, the Padres were at one point 10 games out of first place, and they played unbelievably well in the second half. They brought this thing to the final 4 games of the season, and that says a lot right there. But to me, if I'm a Padres fan, if I'm in that clubhouse right now, you've got a great opportunity this weekend in Arizona with a couple of wins to guarantee you're hosting a wild card series against whomever that might be, the D-backs, the Mets, the Braves, whoever would be coming to town. That is still very much in your control, and I think something at this point you should accomplish. So, look, I think to host a wild card series, that's kind of the next goal beyond winning the division. And regardless, Jesse, just with the way the Padres have played, with the way this team is built, I really think they have a shot, Jesse. And look, they've got to take care of business this weekend in Arizona, but this is a really, really good Padres team. It's well built, it's well rounded. They played well. They had a little stumble the last couple of days, but it's not like they got blown out in LA. These were close games. They were really good games just from the baseball standpoint. So if I'm a San Diego Padre right now, the mindset, the goal hasn't changed. You've got a nice opportunity to sort of take care of business in Arizona with a win or two, and then you get focused on a postseason run. And to me, this Padres team has a very, very good opportunity in front of them with the team they have to go on a deep run. I really believe that.
I'm certainly bullish on the Padres and what they could maybe accomplish in the postseason. We'll get to that more here in a second. But talking about this weekend, you mentioned that the Padres, they're not out of the woods yet, at least in terms of clinching home field advantage in that wild card series. The Diamondbacks could catch them. If the Diamondbacks sweep this series somehow, then they would actually catch up to the Padres in the standings and also have the tiebreaker. So the D-backs could still host the wild card series, as crazy as that sounds right now, with them kind of fighting for their lives. I know the Mets also have an opportunity to catch San Diego as of this point. So along those lines, I guess my question to you is, how seriously do you think the Padres are taking this weekend? Are they taking the foot off the gas at all now that the division is not on the table? I know they moved Yu Darvish up. It looked like Martin Perez was maybe slated or at least lined up to start Friday. They moved Darvish up. So I guess I'm maybe led to believe that the Padres are still kind of trying to full throttle this thing.
Yeah, I think they're full throttle, Jesse, until they clinch that home field advantage. Now, if that happens, that could happen tonight with the Padres win and a Mets loss. The Padres need 2 wins to clinch that home field. I think once they get that, they'll take their foot off the gas pedal clearly because there will be nothing else to play for. But I don't think there's really any scenario where they don't value getting that home field. You want that top wild card spot. The environment at Petco Park is, in my mind, and now they're doing some gardening outside. So far, I didn't factor all this in when I took this spot. But anyway, so hopefully you can still hear me.
We got you.
But no, I think getting home field is a priority for this team, and I think the environment at Petco Park has a lot to do with that. Look, right now they've got a nice cushion. I mean, they would have to really have a few things go wrong, including the Padres not playing well in Arizona, to not take that home field. So I think it's going to be full throttle until they get there. Look, they could certainly use to give some guys some rest. They could certainly use to line up their rotation the way they would want for Tuesday, and part of that's going to be determined by how all out they have to go throughout this weekend. But Jesse, I get the sense they want that home field, and I think they're going to play like it and operate like it until that's all said and done.
I think the last time we did a series preview with you was maybe back in May, and certainly the Padres were in a very different spot then. The Diamondbacks were as well. It was just about a month into the season, but the Padres have obviously come on strong here in the second half. I mean, they've been the hottest team in the league here for a while now. The Diamondbacks have kind of been up there with them, but the Padres have certainly taken a bit of a lead here recently. What do you attribute this to, Sam? I mean, I think back to last year's Padres team, and it felt like they had a lot of talent, but they almost couldn't get out of their own way at times, and they would find ways to lose games. And this team seems like the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, they've had a wonderful second half. And I think the real magic to it, and you're right, they sat at 50-50 at one point, and now they're sitting with 3 games to go, a chance to, if they win all 3 this weekend in Arizona, win 94 games. So they've had a wonderful second half. I think the thing about it is it's not one thing. It's not one thing. It's been a really well-rounded surge. Whether you want to talk about getting healthy in the rotation, Michael King, for the most part, has been great. Dylan Cease has been a little bit more up and down, but has some stretches where he's been unbelievable. Getting you Darvish and Joe Musgrove back healthy has been huge. Joe, really, aside from one blow-up inning against the Giants and the home run he gave up to Will Smith last night, Joe's been sensational. I mean, he
Yeah.
looks like the absolute best version of Joe Musgrove since he's come off the IL. And to me, Joe's a big game pitcher, so that's a big deal. Yu Darvish is healthy. He's looked pretty good as of late. So in the rotation, they got healthy. Martin Perez, you mentioned him. He came over as a guy that you felt like at the very least could just eat up innings for a rotation that sort of needed it. He's been well beyond that. I mean, he's eating up innings, but he's also been really, really effective. So, look, the rotation has taken a major step forward, and they're healthy. The bullpen additions of Adams, Scott, and Hoeing were huge. I mean,
Yeah.
Jason Adams has been unbelievable. Tanner Scott's had a couple of hiccups, but for the most part, he's been really good. Brian Hoeing has been really important and good for this bullpen. They do have Jeremiah Estrada. They do have Adrian Morejon, who have been big pieces to their bullpen. Robert Suarez has stumbled quite a bit more than what he did in the first half of the season. So that's one of the concerns heading into the postseason, I think, for the Padres, is getting Suarez right again. But you list all those names, whether it's Suarez or Adam or Scott or Morejon or Estrada or Hoeing, those are all high leverage guys who have put together really nice years. It gives you an idea of how deep their bullpen is. And from an offensive standpoint, Jesse, they've hit all year. And they got Fernando Tatis Jr. back, and he's played really well since coming off the IL. Manny Machado turned it on in the
Yeah.
middle of June, and he has been one of the best players in the National League for 3+ months. After a really slow start in dealing with coming off the elbow surgery, the additions of Arise and you get the list goes on and on offensively. The contributions of guys like Solano and Peralta, obviously Jackson Merrill having a rookie of the year caliber season. Offensively, they've been really good all year, and it just has all come together in the second half. That's why I say, and I really believe this team has a real shot to win a World Series. I
Yeah.
mean, wild card round, things get a little wacky. You lose the first game, who knows what happens? But I say this with confidence, and obviously I have no idea what's going to happen. Nobody does. But do I think this team on paper is built well enough, has played well enough together where they have a real shot to actually go and win this thing? I do. I do. I think they've been that good, especially in the second half. And I think they're that deep and that well built. So I know that was sort of a long answer, but it kind of illustrates like the second half of the season to me has not been about one thing. It's
Yeah.
been a combination of all those things. And that's how you have the type of second half the Padres have had.
So I guess just looking ahead in this series, we only know the Friday starters as of right now. We know Yu Darvish, we know Merrill Kelly. If this series continues to be relevant for the Padres beyond today, which I guess would assume a Diamondbacks win in the first game, what do you think the rotation for San Diego looks like the rest of the weekend? I guess Michael King maybe lines up for Saturday.
Right.
What do you think this could look like?
Well, King pitched on Tuesday, so that would give him Wednesday, Thursday. So he would be on 4 days rest on Sunday, right? So they're not going to bring him back before Sunday. So I would assume that if these games mattered, Saturday and Sunday, I would assume probably tomorrow is Martin Perez and probably Sunday is Michael King. And, look, I think the Padres ideally would like those two games not to matter, right? That way you can line up your rotation because if King pitches Sunday, he's not coming back on Tuesday
Right.
and, starting game one of a wild card series and back to, he's not going to be able to pitch unless you're pitching him on 3 days rest on Thursday. So who knows if Michael King starts a game in the wild card series if he has to pitch on Sunday. So to me, there's quite a bit of incentive for the Padres to take care of business at least before Sunday.
Mm,
Maybe you're not panicking if Martin Perez has to start tomorrow, but I would imagine it would be Perez tomorrow and it would be King on Sunday if these two games matter for the Padres. If not, then you throw everything out the window because then it becomes about how they want to set up things for the wild card series, getting guys rest. But the only thing that would really make sense to me right now, especially considering the Padres aren't fighting for their playoff lives, they're fighting for seeding. Would be Perez tomorrow and King on Sunday. But to me, that's why it was TBD,
yeah.
for the next 2 days, because, you just don't know what the games are going to mean. And obviously that can change. But for home field advantage, I would think, the Padres would still probably throw Michael King on Sunday, even if, they're only
Mm,
playing for home field. It's an interesting decision, though, right?
yeah.
As you try to line things up. But we'll see what happens. It's a good question. And I think right now you can't say anything with total certainty, which is why it was TBD.
You mentioned Michael King and how he's the guy that you would want on the mound for this team if home field advantage was on the line on Sunday. I mean, he's 13-9 with a 2.95 ERA. I remember when the Diamondbacks were in San Diego in early July, and I think King maybe had an ERA somewhere in the fours. And in my head, he was sort of the Padres' Brandon Pfaadt. There were a lot of similarities between those two guys. Certainly kind of up and coming pitchers, somewhat similar arsenals with the sweeper and the changeup and whatnot. But King is just totally taken off here in the second half of the season, and I have to imagine for Padres fans, this validates trading Juan Soto, right? I mean, this is what if it's possible to win a trade where you're giving up one of the best players in baseball, I mean, this is kind of what it looks like, right? I mean, King, a sub-3 ERA starting pitcher that you have team control over for several more seasons. Do you think that this makes that trade a win, or how do Padres fans kind of view that trade at this point?
Yeah, I think if you look at it from this perspective, it's a total win. Michael King was the centerpiece of the deal, right? He was the guy that the Padres felt like in a full-time starting role could be a great starting pitcher.
Right.
And they were right. King got off to an up and down start, was giving up a lot of home runs early, but also showed flashes of dominance early on as well. And then after about 2 months of the season, he settled in a huge way. And look, there's always been the innings concern with him because he's doing something he's never done in the major leagues before, which is be a
Right.
starting pitcher for a full season. And from the start of the season, he keeps on pitching, and the results have got better and better and better. He put an innings number, a goal of 180 in spring training, and he's going to end up being pretty close to that. So credit to him, and the effectiveness has been there. So I think if you look at it from the perspective of he was the centerpiece of the deal, and to this point, that part of it has worked out beautifully. And the Padres have him for next year as well. I think Michael King, he has shown this season like he has Cy Young caliber stuff and
Yeah.
potential. I mean that. Okay, for him to do what he's done in his first full season as a starting pitcher is remarkable. He's been their best starting pitcher wire to wire this year. To me, he's been the best guy out of this rotation. So I think you have to be very happy with that from the trade perspective. Keep in mind the Padres also used Drew Thorpe, a big prospect in that trade from the
Right.
Yankees. They flipped him. He was a big part of the Dylan Cease trade. So there's a lot of different tentacles to the Soto deal, right? About having Thorpe be part of the Cease trade, King being the centerpiece of your rotation this year and next year. If Randy Vasquez and Johnny Brito, end up being contributors, that's another part of it. And Kyle Higashioka, don't overlook that. Higgy has
Yeah.
been a really good defensive catcher for this team. He's got a career high 16 home runs. He's provided power. I think he's a really good clubhouse presence. So, to lose 1 year of Soto and get back what they got back, including the C steal, because I think you have to mention that in all this in a way. Jesse, I think in hindsight, they did very, very well in that trade. Remember, it was only 1 year of Soto, a big year
Right.
of Soto, but 1 year of Soto. I think they did very, very well. And Michael King, to your point, is a huge, huge part of that.
Yu Darvish is 38 years old, and yet I look at his recent numbers since coming off the injured list, and it's sort of exactly what I what I would always expect from Yu
Yeah.
Darvish. What does he look like at this stage in his career? I have a hard time believing that Yu Darvish of 2024 is the same as Yu Darvish of 2017, who helped knock out the Diamondbacks in the NLDS back when he was with the Dodgers. But based on the numbers, the results still look really excellent.
Yeah, I think when the Padres signed you to that extension, a couple of years ago, I think they felt like you was going to be somebody who aged really well. And that is because he throws a variety of different pitches. He's incredibly smart in the way he goes about his work. He's a tremendously hard and consistent worker. And you just felt like even as he edged towards 40 years old, he was somebody that was gonna age well as a starting pitcher because of all those things. And look, he had some injury stuff go on earlier this year. He missed a lot of time, dealing with a personal matter. Since coming back, he slowly got better and better. And, I think you would have a pretty good amount of confidence in him in a playoff start right now. But he's getting it done the way he always gets it done. I mean, mixing his pitches. He's so smart. He takes advantage of lineups that don't have as much experience. He's doing it the way he's always done it. So, yeah, you're right. I'm not super surprised that he continues to get better and better as he gets built back up. The results have got better and better as he's come off the restricted list and come off the injuries. And I think the key for him is continue to stay healthy, continue to do what he's done. But I think that's what the Padres envisioned when they signed him to that extension, was that he was going to age really well. And, it's always fun to watch you because he does it a little bit differently every game. And that's what he's done pretty much as of late. So we'll see how he does here tonight against the Diamondbacks. Obviously, it's a big start, but I think the Padres have a lot of confidence in Yu Darvish. And look, if they can line up the rotation the way they want for the wild card series, it's going to be a fascinating question as to what they do, because hypothetically they have Darvish, they have King, they have Cease, they have Musgrove. If they're
Right.
all available, you've only got 3 games in a wild card series. So it's actually one of the sort of burning questions right now with the Padres is like, okay, who would be the odd man out if you can line it up the way you would want? Because if King pitches Sunday, then that takes
Right.
care of part of it. But King is somebody who has a lot of experience coming out of the bullpen. He's also been your best starting pitcher all year, most consistent and most available. So it's going to be an interesting decision. But I think there's a very good chance that Yu Darvish starts one of those playoff games. And he's certainly very capable of putting together dominant outings still. There's no doubt about that.
Imagine having too much starting pitching. I know the Diamondbacks are certainly envious of that, as are a number of
Yeah.
other teams around the league. This should be a fascinating weekend to watch. The Diamondbacks are, of course, playing for their lives, as we've discussed on our show. D-backs sweep this series. They're in the postseason. Anything less than that, they're going to need some help from other teams. There's a lot of different scenarios that we walked through on our show yesterday. The Padres, as we've discussed here, are just looking to secure home field advantage. Maybe they would tap the brakes a little bit after that point. Should be a lot of fun to watch, Sam. We're looking forward to it, of course, and always appreciate your time hopping on here with us.
Jesse, absolutely. Again, I apologize for my location here. We've got leaf blowers going on. I've got phone alarms going off. We've got people walking around. So hopefully you can hear me okay. But I'm with you. It should be a really fun series. Obviously, there's still a lot to play for both these teams, and I'm looking forward to it. And then we get to the real fun beginning on Tuesday with the wild card series. So hope you enjoy it and appreciate it as always.
Thanks, Sam.
We all silly like the mayor.